Okay, what's up, boys? Today I want to talk about the solo queue experience, kind of what happens, why a lot of people find it tilting and irritating to play, how we can make it kind of more fulfilling and more enjoyable, and how we can kind of appropriately place responsibility in League, and why people get tilted, and we're going to dive kind of into those reasons. My name is JS Method, or Coach JS, or Jamie as y'all may know me as. How you guys doing? Let's hop right into this. So, tilt in League is quite a big topic, but let's actually break down what solo queue is. So I'm going to draw a little bit of a graphic here to kind of explain. Solo queue, we can view solo queue as a thing, right? And we're going to call this, I'm going to call this like matchmaking, right? Matchmaking, this is solo queue. When we queue up, we go through matchmaking. We go through matchmaking, we put something into it. We go through matchmaking and then we get something out of it. Right? We get the output. So now the question is, and in here, let me write some of these things down. The matchmaking stuff. Let's talk about what this is. This is solo queue. Okay. This is solo queue. This includes things like, it puts you with teammates. It controls your enemies. It controls everything that's outside of your control in the game is kind of part of matchmaking, right? Teammates, enemies, smurfs, trolls, AFKs, stuff like the dragon that you guys roll, right? The dragon soul or any of the dragons you roll. Things like what side crab spawns on. Like a lot of this stuff is just simply out of your control, and this is matchmaking, right? Now output is your rank, right? This is whether you win or lose. This is whether you win or lose. This is your rank, right? So if you're bronze, right, whatever. The thing about this that's important to recognize is one game of matchmaking doesn't decide your rank, right? One game of matchmaking is kind of insignificant, right? This system, for the output to be accurate, it's more accurate with the more games, right? So if you have 100 games, it'll be more accurate than if you play 10. If you play 10 games, your rank may not be in the right spot. If you play 100 games, your rank's getting close, or it'll be a lot closer. If you play 1,000 games, chances are you are where you belong, right? So it's an important trait of matchmaking to know. It requires a large sample size. It works better over more games, right? It can't tell how good you are in one game. Can't tell how good you are in 10 games, right? But over 100, over 200, 300, 1,000 games, it's very, very accurate. So it's reliant on a large sample size, and it gives you the output. So now the question is, what's the input? This is us, right? The input is us. It's what we provide to the game. This is us. This is what, I'm gonna put this on a new line. This is what we provide to the game, right? So, we can kind of break it down into these three parts. Got my pen here. There's kind of these three parts. And this is important to write this out like this because now the next question I'm going to ask is, and I'll start with the easiest one. Do we have control over matchmaking? Do we have any direct control of our teammates, of the enemies we play against, of the smurfs and trolls, of the AFKs, of the dragon you get, of the side the crab spawns? Do you control any of that? And the answer is no, right? People very, very intuitively understand that, okay, we have no control over this, right? Actually, one time I was coaching a client going through this lecture and he said, you can dodge. So you can actually remove the worst parts of your teammates through dodging, or like the worst team comps through dodging, which is true, but you have very little to no control over this, right? So the next question is, do we have control over the input? And the answer is well, the input is you and your performance and how you play. Yes, right? You have absolute control. That's what I'm going to say. Absolute control. So now the question is, do you have control over the output? Right? And this is where people get mixed up because people are like, well, whether we win or lose, I do have control over that, right? It's like, do you control if your bot lane goes 0-100 and literally in the game and you have a Disco Nunu Do you control that? Like, was that your fault? No, right? Do you impact your rank over a large sample size? Yes. The answer is you have indirect control, right? So here I'll write indirect control. Indirect control. What does indirect control mean? Indirect control means that you cannot directly decide if you're going to win or lose any individual game. The value of an individual game is almost nothing. I do not care. You can show me one game you played. It can be a really, really good game. It can be a really, really bad game. It can be an average game. I don't care about the result. The result is meaningless because you cannot go into a game and say, I'm going to win, and then win 100% of the time because you don't have that kind of control. I don't care if you're smurfing. I don't care if you're really tryharding. You might get smurf on the enemy team. That's better than you. You might get trolls on your team. You might get a really bad team composition and, you know, whatever. You might make a mistake, whatever. And on the flip side of that, you can't decide you're going to lose a game. You can try, right? You can AFK and you can fucking int and you can soft int, you can run it down, you can do all these things. But I've seen people win 4v5s. So even if you're useless, you still might win. You do not have direct control. There are 10 players in a League of Legends match, and you are one of them. So if you think you have control, you're 1/10 of the players in the game. If you think you have direct control of the output, well, that's a problem, right? You do not have direct control of the output, right? There's too many variables. There's too many things outside of your control. An individual game does not matter. Okay, so if we know that, what's the whole point of this conversation? The point of the conversation is that people believe they have control over the output, and then they get very, very upset when they lose or win. And it's like your attention is misguided. So here, let me go to the next slide here. It's like, what do we have control over? Internal versus external factors, right? What can we actually control in the solo queue climb? And I like to break it down right here. Above this line is internal intrinsic factors, and below this line are external factors, right? So it doesn't make sense to worry about matchmaking. It doesn't make sense to worry about wins and losses. Because again, you don't control it. What it makes sense to worry about is your direct input to the game, right? How did you play? How did you do? How did you feel? What did you learn? Because over time, as long as your input goes up, which is the only thing you can control, then the output will follow. But it's important to recognize input goes first. If your input goes up, it'll take time for the output to kind of catch up and recognize that, right? So if you get better and you're learning each game, it'll take a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks before your output, before the rank actually comes and catches up to your skill level, right? So a big reason why people get tilted is they put too much energy on the output. Like, oh, I played really well this game, but I lost. And it's like, why? If you played really well that game, you should feel good. And you need to keep doing that. But then people will have games where they play like shit. They'll be 0-10, and their team will also lose, right? And they'll lose, and they'll think, oh no, it's just a team gap, right? It was a jungle gap. It's like, are you crazy? You went 0-10, right? So here, I have some pictures here of some accounts of clients I've worked with. Right? So again, down here, logically, it only makes sense to worry and get emotional about factors within your control. The internal intrinsic performance, right? If you perform poorly, if you go 0-10, you should feel bad. Games where you play good, you should feel good. The outcome has the win or loss does not matter. If you play well, you should feel good and you should aim to do that again. If you play bad, you should feel bad. I don't care if you won or lost, right? So this is a screenshot of a client that I've been talking to, and we had this conversation actually last night, right? And he showed me this match history, and he's like, dude, look at this 14-8 game. I cannot climb because I can't win this 14-8 game. I went 14-8. I played really well, but I can't climb. I can't carry these teammates. And then he's like, well, also look at this 20-11 game. It's the same thing. I cannot win because my teammates are so bad. I cannot carry them. And my whole point with this whole conversation is these games will happen, right? You played well. This game should feel good to you. The game that should feel bad is the game where you went 5-9. Why did you lose lane? Why were you behind gold? Why did you have less CS? Why did you do less damage? Same thing with this game, right? This game, Why is your opponent super fed? Why are you running it down? Why didn't you have some sort of impact, right? It's these games that matter more because it's clear that your input was very, very low these games. So, kind of in short, a big misconception is people think these games they need to fix. But look at this, you were the best player on your team, right? And it's not even really close. So another way we can kind of visualize this is we can kind of say, like, let's say, you know, this client is like bronze 3 or whatever. I don't remember the exact rank, but let's say he's bronze 3, right? And this game, you know, he plays well. You know, let's say this is like a bronze 2 level game. This is, you know, a bronze 1 level game. Let's say this game even is like a silver 4 level game, right? And then this game is like an iron 2. Iron 2, or actually, let's say this one's iron 4 and this one's iron 2, right? So if we can kind of attribute a different, like, level of your skill level in these games, you know, this was a good game, we'll put silver 3 there, and this was a good game, we'll put silver 4. And he's like, well, why should I climb? He's saying that he's not playing good enough in the games he's overperforming. It's like, no, you're already overperforming in those games. Your input was very good. Good job. Keep doing that. The problem is when you play like an iron 4 player and disregard it. Because if these two games are wins, if you played these like a silver player, right? And now you're win, right? You're 5 wins to 2 losses. This is an incredibly good win rate, right? And these were his only 4 losses in his last 10 games. So like his actual last 10 games, he's 6-4, right? And he's complaining this is not climbing fast enough. Well, if you just turn these into wins, now you're 8-2, right? That's an 80% win rate. That is incredibly high. Anybody should be happy to have an 80% win rate. And all you have to do is fix the games you play like shit. The games where you play well, you did good. Good job. Keep playing like that, right? And I actually have another account here with a slightly different problem where this is another client I've worked with, right? And, you know, this client had almost a similar problem where every game he's too worried about his teammates' mistakes. He watches his teammates too well. But it's like, it doesn't matter what your teammates are doing if you're 5-10 and 4-10, right? You're gold because all of these stats are so low. Put the focus on you. Why are you 4-10? Why do you have a 0.6 KDA? Why do you average 10 deaths? Why are you losing CS? Why are you not doing the most damage, right? Your gameplay has flaws in it that need to get fixed before you climb, right? So the biggest talk about, or the biggest point of this conversation is just kind of understanding that you should take responsibility for your gameplay. The wins and losses don't matter too much. Everybody's going to have loss streaks. Everybody's going to have win streaks. What's very important is you're able to kind of discern the games you play good and the games you play poorly in, right? So if we're looking at this client's match history, we see like, man, you have to stop going 4-10. This is illegal, right? This game is so disgusting. This should be painful to you, and you should register that as a painful experience so you do everything in your power not to do that again. Because that's a really bad game, a really painful game, right? Where this client just writes this off. He's like, it was a bad game and we had a jungle diff anyways and it doesn't matter. It's like, no, I don't care about your teammates. I don't care about any of it. I don't even care that you lost. I care that you went 4-10 and you don't see a problem with it, right? And you're losing CS, right? And maybe you have low KP or whatever it is. So that's kind of the point of today's talk. If you want to find real competitive fulfillment in League of Legends, you have to kind of focus on internal factors rather than external factors. Don't worry too much. You know, it's ironic because we play because of ranked, but the best way to get rank is to stop caring about the actual rank in the short term, right? So if you want to climb these huge divisions over a year or two, right, over a season or two, the best way to do it is to disregard the actual LP gains, disregard the wins and losses, and really focus in on your performance, right? Your stats, right? If you have a 12-4 game and you lose, oh well, but you played well, right? Like you went 12-4, that's good. If you go 12-4 every game, these aren't all losses. So focus on the games where you go 4-10, fix those first. You're going to lose games that you play well. It sucks, but you should be able to feel good about that because you did play well. These games where you play poorly and lose, those are the most valuable games. Make sure those are the ones you go fix. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure you guys drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to see these kind of videos live, make sure you guys join the Twitch. If you want to give me video ideas, comment them below or join my Discord. And all the links should be in the description. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see you guys around. Have a blessed night. Peace.